No, wait, that's a terrible idea too, and it only tends to work in cowboy movies. Yeah, surprisingly, cactuses aren't just filled with water. They're also spiky.
Water, my worst enemy.
Now, just before we get started, I do want to say that it's brought to you by the new, brave, glorious sponsor where you get to pretend to be brave by being involved in virtual war. That's right, this video is brought to you by the free-to-play multiplayer game Enlisted. If you're a gamer, you know the historical shooters have come rather back into vogue in the last 4 or 5 years. Did they ever leave? Or is it just my enjoyment of them never waned? And Enlisted, which was launched in 2021, is quickly becoming one of the most popular games in the space. It has a strong focus on historical accuracy, something you know I like as a history fact boy, while still keeping the gameplay dynamic and fast-paced. Personally, I've always liked games that are historically accurate and kind of let you learn a little something while also playing, and that's exactly what Enlisted does. You play distinct historical campaigns like the invasion of Normandy or the Battle for Moscow. Each campaign has unique maps, troops, weapons, and all kinds of various historic details to unlock and play in. It's got lots of elements from other shooters that you probably enjoy, like large-scale combat zones, lots of vehicles, specialized weapons, you know, all the stuff that you expect from great games like this. But you can also do some cool stuff, a bit unique. Construct fortifications that assist your team in real time on the battlefield, and also, naturally, you can customize your soldier so that you can take your preferred style of fighter. It's available on PC, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, as well as Xbox One and PS4. If you're living in the past, I don't. I've got the previous generation of console as well. Don't worry. And everything is fully optimized for cross-platform support, so there's lots of ways to join in the battle. And remember, it's free to play. Go to enlisted.link/brainblaze enlisted to get started. There's also a link below because that's a mouthful. And you will get, as a special reward, 3 days of premium play plus several orders for troops and weapons. Very cool. Check it out. And now today's video. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Brain Blaze. As always, I'm your host, Simon Whammers here. Danny writes me a script. It's right there. I'm going to read it. Then Sam is going to edit it. The video editing and the memes and such things. Welcome, welcome. This is all about survival facts that everyone says, but will probably kill you. It's an awkwardly worded title, isn't it? Anyway, here we go. Day 347. Our troubled expedition to seek out the mythical waterfall of eternal life has taken our ever-diminishing party across thousands of miles of wild jungle and desert, fierce mountainous terrain, and at least 12 different branches of IKEA.
Oh, hell no!
The expedition has not been without tragic incidents. Sticky Hand Saris has copped it on day 63 after getting captured and eaten by cannibals. Holy shit. Was that near the IKEA? This was a double blow for everyone as it had been carrying the map, the hot cross buns, and the bus fare home. Our party was now becoming increasingly delirious as we found ourselves running short of food, direction, and hope. And to top it all off, Sniffer Jenkins has just told us that he could smell a pack of angry bears in the distance. The good news is that I still had my battered and bruised copy of the Big Book of Survival Tips for Boys and Girls. The bad news was that it appeared to have been written by a complete blithering idiot. And I guess we're going to look at some of these tips today, aren't we? One of the ones I always wondered about, the drinking salt water at sea. I made a video about this, and there was some dude who tested this out, and he was just taking little sips of the water. And his argument, and I think he proved this somehow, I should definitely look into this, was because this is one of those things you're like, oh man, I'm stuck at sea, and I did read this thing about whether it was okay to drink the salt water, and obviously the main thing is don't drink water.
Don't do it.
But this guy was just drinking a tiny bit. Apparently, he reckons the big thing that killed people was that they'd been out there for so long, they were dying of thirst, and eventually they were like, it, I'm so thirsty, I'm drinking the seawater. And they drink the seawater, and then their kidneys can't handle the huge amount of salt that they've been taking in, and they die. But he was saying, just have a little sip, every day, and it's water, and also the kidneys, it's not that much salt, so the kidneys can process it out or something, which seems pretty crazy. I mean, don't do that in the Dead Sea. I went swimming in the Dead Sea. It's crazy. It's so salty. I in my mind, I was kind of yeah, people float in the Dead Sea and shit. And then I went there, and I'm like, oh my god, it's fully saturated with salt. You're walking into it, and there's just giant crystals of salt just on the seafloor, and you can't go underwater because it burns your eyes so bad. I got a little bit of it splashed in my eyes, and I had to go to the shore and wash my eyes out. Dead Sea, it's horrible. Running away from ninja bears. I suppose we'd better deal with these pesky bears first. The Survival Guide suggests that the best way to deal with a bear attack is to quickly run away downhill, as bears can't give chase very fast downhill because their front legs are shorter than their hind legs. That sounds like some bullshit right there. Isn't the thing with bears, you can't outrun bears, so you have to like scare them off, so you're like, rah! And the bear's like, oh shit. I went hiking and there was someone who had been, their story, not mine. They were sleeping in a tent one night and a bear came, clawed through the fabric of their tent, grabbed their sleeping bag and just started dragging them along the ground. But then they were like, I'm here, hey bear, and then the bear ran off. But all their is ruined. Oh God. Bears, man. Nothing. The bears and wolves went about camping. You're like, well, there's no bears where I live, but there are wolves. You know, wolves. I saw that movie, The Grey. I saw that ages ago. Like, it's got to be like 10 years ago. I still think about that movie. Still think about that scary ass movie, The Grey. Oh man. Wolves suck. It's also worth bearing in mind the old saying that you don't ever even need to outrun the bear, you just need to outrun your mates. And if all else fails, just shoot the bear in the face. Sadly, all of this advice is utter nonsense. Wait, if I shot a bear in its face, that bear is going down. Unless I got some weak-ass woman gun. Sadly, all of this advice is utter nonsense. Although there's no single strategy that will guarantee your survival from a situation involving a grumpy bear, running away is the worst thing you could possibly do. Bears can absolutely run downhill, to the shock of absolutely nobody, and much faster than you. They're also pretty good at running in a straight line and climbing trees. You're doomed in any direction. If you make a sudden dash for it, you're just going to wind up the bear and equally endanger the life of everyone in your group. The first thing to bear in mind is that bear attacks are incredibly rare. Bears don't tend to be looking for a fight, and you can usually de-escalate a tense situation before the starts kicking off. But you also need to know what kind of bear you're dealing with. Unless you're lost above the Arctic Circle, the only kind you're ever like to come across is a brown bear or a black bear. Brown bears, including grizzlies, are generally the most dangerous and ferocious, yet they're probably the simplest to deal with. Instead of running away, it's better to back off slowly without dropping eye contact until the bear realizes you're not interested in stealing its cubs. If you find yourself under attack from a brown bear or a grizzly, the best strategy is to curl up in a ball on the floor and play dead, protecting your head and neck while doing so. The bear should again lose interest when it senses that you pose no further threat. Okay, my thing about scaring the bears. Bad advice, don't fuck it, unless that's how we deal with black bears. I didn't know that. I'd be like, oh, look, a grizzly bear. Rah! It's like, destroy me. Like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant level of destroyed, except dead. Stay in that position for a while though, as it might take a while to fully convince the bear. Black bears are an entirely different kettle of salmon though. Even though they're generally more timid than their cocky brown counterparts, they're still more likely to be scared into having a proper go at you, but they also are more easily frightened away. The best tactic here is to stand your ground, puff up your chest and start yelling at it. I knew it! Although I definitely do that on brown bears, didn't I? And get, like I said, DiCaprio, Revenant, get destroyed. You know how it goes. Maybe clatter a few saucepans if you have any handy. Anything loud and noisy will help encourage the bear to back off. However, if you find yourself under attack, playing dead won't work here. Perhaps surprisingly, the recommended advice is to fight back, kicking and punching the bear in its face and muzzle. Those saucepans might also come in handy again here. In an oversimplified nutshell, if it's brown, lie down. If it's black, fight back. Oh my god, that's so intense. And put that gun away too. Bear pepper spray is the most effective weapon at your disposal. It's more likely to ensure that you come out of the situation in one piece. In contrast, a tiny bullet from a gun aimed at a charging bear could miss or simply injure the beast. And that's the point at which your life expectancy is seriously destined to run downhill very quickly. If you don't have any bear pepper spray, I don't know, man. Obviously, if I had some sort of 2-2 gun, then it's going to be like, well, this isn't going to go do dick. It's a giant bear. But if I've got a shotgun, like a double-barreled shotgun or something, I'd wait for that bear. The bear comes, he's coming, and boom! He's still coming in, boom! And then you really hope that he's down because you probably don't have time to reload. It's easy to make a fire with 2 sticks. If you fancy traveling light, you can always leave behind any equipment that could potentially be used for starting up a nice fire. After all, everyone knows that any explorer or hiker or idiot quickly rustle up a fire in a minute just by rubbing 2 sticks together. That is some massive bullshit. Anyone who's seen that movie, and I realize all of my survival knowledge does seem to come from movies, so it's probably not even knowledge. But that one where Tom Hanks is stuck on an island, Castaway, he's like trying to make a fire for f***ing ages. And he's just an everyman, and I'll be like, that's what's up. That's what I'll be like. And then he manages to cut some hole in it. I'll be like, I'd never think of that. One minor prize, just I'd be cold on that island the whole year. One minor problem, it's ridiculously hard, and if you're relying on this method to keep you warm, you could end up in serious difficulty. You can't just make a fire by randomly rubbing two sticks together. Even the most seasoned explorer will find it challenging to get a good fire going via the stick method.
Especially since they're such good size and all. Yeah, I see that.
Even the most seasoned explorer will find it challenging to get a fire going via the stick method, and the chances of you succeeding are pretty close to zero if you've got little experience. You ideally need to find the exact right type of sticks along with other improvised wooden tools, as well as a big dollop of strength and an even bigger dollop of patience. It's more than likely that you'll have succumbed to the brutal cold before you get close to seeing the faintest trace of a tiny spark. So forget about rubbing sticks and make sure you pack an assortment of more reliable firelighting methods in your rucksack.
Will you show me? I'd be right happy to.
Otherwise, you'd stand far more chance of keeping warm by just hanging around in the remote barren wilderness and waiting to scrounge a light from a chain-smoking passerby. Wait, that's the end of this entry, so Daddy's been like, hard. It's impossible. Is there a better solution, like with the bears? No, you're fucked. How to cope with your first day in prison. What sort of survival book are you reading, Danny? It's like nature survival and also in case you're going to jail. I say, establish your dominance. Piss on the ringleader of a gang. Whilst flicking idly through the big book of survival tips for boys and girls, I came across a bit of sage advice on prison survival. On your first day in prison, hunt down the biggest inmate in the joint and punch him right in the face. This will apparently assert your authority and dominance from day one and ensure everyone else gets the message that you're a guy not to be messed with. This sounds like a terrible idea. No, don't do that. You'll get shanked in the showers. Everyone's seen prison movies. We know what it's like. You're going to get killed. Well, in interest of research, you're welcome to have a go, but I did a bit of my own research on social media. I talked to a bunch of people who had a bit of inside experience on the inside experience. Oh, Danny, that's some research.
Genius. Pay him nothing and run it on the cover.
A few of them suggested that there's some value in the idea of standing your ground and putting up a fight if someone starts pushing you around, otherwise you'll be seen as an easy target for the rest of your sentence. Easier said than done, though. We were always taught to stand up to bullies at school, but how many of us actually dared to do this, and how many of us ran away downhill in fear of getting our heads kicked in? Yes! But self-defense is one thing. Launching an entirely unprovoked attack on the biggest guy in prison is generally considered to be a big no-no. For starters, you're likely to end up spending the next few weeks of your life breathing through a tube in your neck. Even if you do land a lucky strike, you don't automatically rise to the position of top dog. It's like, you punch the scary tattoos on his face, motherfucker, in the face, and he's like, ow! My leader. This guy is probably going to have a network of dangerous connections who'll be more than happy to exact revenge and poke your eyeball out with a spoon at the earliest opportunity. But the point is that you don't need to do this anyway. You'll just be making yourself look like a complete bellend to both the prison officers and your fellow inmates. A typical day in prison isn't quite as dramatic and as violent as we get shown in the movies and on TV. No, I mean, I'm sure prison is shit. Like, no one wants to go to prison. But it's not like there's not we're not, I mean, I don't know about prison in Honduras or something, but most of the time is not going to be like savage violence every day, because that would just be insane. Or is it? I assume it's not. I'm generally assuming it's not like that. Unless you're sharing a facility with a bunch of lifers, most of the inmates won't be actively looking for trouble, and not even the biggest guy will fancy jeopardizing his chance of getting released on time by starting pointless fights. Yeah, can you imagine your first day in, you go punch the guy in the face, it's like, how long are you in jail for? Oh, like 6 months. Well, you started a fight, so now you're in for another 2 years. Oh, fuck! Stupid boys and girls survival guide. Your best bet of getting... What are you in prison for? I started a company called Theranos. You just punched Bernie Madoff in the face. It's like, guys, we're not violent here. This is the prison for, like, corporate fraud, for f***'s sake. Your best bet to get through the challenging circumstances is just to keep your head down, mind your own business, blend in with the crowd, and try to avoid any sudden urge to start pummeling every dude who's twice as big as you. Besides, the biggest guy in the prison might be a gentle giant who was falsely convicted of stealing a book of knitting patterns, and he's seriously fed up with getting randomly attacked by every hot-headed newbie who walks in through the gates. Leave the poor lamb alone. Bridge over troubled water. Our expedition to find the mythical waterfall of eternal life may have taken a couple of wrong turns and involved a few unfortunate deaths, but the good news is that we still had bucket loads of water between us. And that's because we'd followed the golden rule outlined in the big book of survival tips for boys and girls. Carefully ration your limited water supplies, as you never know where the next lot is coming from. I've heard of this. It's that you should drink the water. Apparently that's like how it should be, but that seems insane. Admittedly, it seems a shame that 3 of our party had died of dehydration when we still had enough water to fill about 100 baths. Joking aside, there have been many real-life situations in which lost hikers have been found dead from dehydration despite still having plenty of water in their bottles, which they were presumably rationing far too strictly.
Bowls of water. Right, water.
The point is that you need to be completely on your game during those vital first hours and days of a survival situation, and your physical abilities and decision-making skills are going to dry up pretty quickly if you get too dehydrated. Dry up dehydrated, Danny, yes! Saving a bit of precious water for next Friday isn't going to be much use when you're already on the brink of dropping dead today. The best place for water in that situation is in your body, rather than in your rucksack. Instead of bravely resisting the urge to quench your thirst, take a good slurp whenever required until it's all gone, and use this period of healthy hydration to keep your mind working and focused on a long-term strategy. This should involve resting in the shade during the daytime hours and saving any physical exertion and exploring for the cooler night hours. That's your best hope of staying alive long enough to find your next supply of water, and there's loads of it about if you look hard enough. For example, if you're stuck in the desert, you can just regularly help yourself to a refreshing drink from a cactus. That's a lie. No, wait, that's a terrible idea too, and it only tends to work in cowboy movies. Yeah, surprisingly, cactuses aren't just filled with water. They're also spiky. You can only really extract any kind of emergency fluid from either a fishhook barrel cactus or a prickly pear cactus, as unless you're something of a cacti connoisseur, you'll find it difficult to distinguish those two from the other 2,000 types of cacti scattered around the sands. And even if you do know your cacti, you won't be extracting and drinking pure water, but rather a toxic mixture of acids and alkaloids, which can actually exacerbate dehydration. The Seri Indians often used to drink the fluid from a fishhook barrel cactus in dire emergencies, but they rather worryingly gave it the nickname the barrel that kills. Holy maybe it's not that. Don't eat that. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
They discovered that drinking it led to diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, pain in the bones, kidney problems, and temporary paralysis. I feel like 2 of those things. When you have pain in your bones, not a good sign. Temporary paralysis, also bad. Like temporary paralysis, why if you get temporary paralysis in your diaphragm? Then you die. Unless you got a respirator, and you probably don't have a respirator because you don't have any water, do you? This is obviously not quite the same cactus water stuff that you can buy from stores, which has been heavily processed from the actual fruit of a prickly pear cactus to make it suitable for human consumption. Still, when all else fails, you can always fall back on that classic last resort, drinking your own pee. Why fret about water at all when you've got a permanent fluid source dispensing recycled drinks on taps? It's like the ultimate free bar. Danny, you and I have a very different definition of free bar. And what is the ultimate free bar?
I am disgusted.
No, wait, we shouldn't be doing that either. It really is no fun out there in the wild, is it? To be fair, this can be used as an absolute last resort, and many survivors of perilous situations have claimed that drinking their own urine helped them to make it out alive at the other end. The former Prime Minister of India, Morarji Desai, drank it all the time and claims that his water of life was the secret to his longevity. He lives to the ripe old age of 99. I'd rather live to 90 and not spend my life drinking my own piss, to be honest, mate.
That's a 10.
But there's a good reason why urine appears on the official do not drink list of the US Army Survival Handbook, along with fish juices, Heineken, and seawater. Danny hates Heineken. Heineken is not bad, Danny. Urine might be made up of around 95% water, but the other 5% contains sodium chloride and urea. I have no idea how my ear got in my urine. Hilarious fact, boy.
Why are you the way that you are?
Rather than drinking seawater or cactus water, you'll end up getting even more dehydrated from drinking your own pee, but that urea is actually the bigger problem. This contains the very same toxins that your body was supposed to be trying to get rid of in the first place, and shoving that waste right back into your body is just going to put extra strain on your kidneys, as they will have to work even harder on refiltering the extra urea. Urine is also ripe with 85 different types of bacteria, which can cause food poisoning and sore gums, and you really don't want the final chapter of your expedition to conclude with you yourself to death while screaming in agony from sore gums. Your urine doesn't have to go to waste, though. Peeing on your clothes and makeshift bandanas can help keep your body cool and prevent sweating whilst you're searching for your next supply of non-toxic liquid. Lovely. How about don't do that? But I'm still intrigued as to why the 99-year-old Indian Prime Minister put so much faith in regularly knocking back his own piss. And as our party gets ever closer to the waterfall of eternal life, I can't help but feel a little concerned when Sniffer Jenkins suddenly announces that it's beginning to smell a lot like the Rotherham public toilet around here. Danny, you killed it with this one. I loved it. Love all these lies. And now I know how to deal with bears. Brown, lie down. Black, fight back. Hell yeah, I'm gonna go this weekend. Let's go fight some bears. Thanks for watching. Just a reminder at the end, thank you to Enlisted for sponsoring today's video. They make it possible. Remember, go to enlisted.link/BrainBlazeEnlisted to start playing their free MMO shooter. 3 days of premium play, some bonus troops and weapons. Go check it out. There's a link below. And thank you for watching. Fierce mountainous terrain and at least 12 different branches of IKEA.